Okay, good afternoon. My name is Karl Weaver. I'm coming to you live from Seattle, Washington State, actually Woodinville, Washington, here in the great Pacific Northwest. Today, Larry has invited me, Larry of the Blockchain Society at the University of Washington, has invited me to give my presentation um, on the um, it's called Blockchain Modules with BoAT, ushers in a trusted phase of AIoT acceptance in a digital age. So this presentation, I hope people enjoy. I will start out by saying, let's see, yes, I will start out by saying that I work for a company called AITOS. This is a stealth blockchain software or blockchain embedded software startup out of Shanghai, invested by Wansheng Blockchain. So AITOS, the CEO of AITOS and I got together at the CES show in Vegas in January of 2020. And I told him that I was looking for something more challenging and interesting. So he brought me on board in February. This is a very, very interesting technology. And personally, I've always been the guy promoting the most cutting edge technology in the mobile, really the mobile device world. This is not necessarily a mobile device. This is combining or actually integrating cellular IoT modules with the blockchain. And this is actually a natural progression that lots of tech people don't realize is actually it's the law of it's a law of nature. This was bound to happen. This is going to happen. We're probably the second company in the world doing this, and we're quite successful. So I'm very, very happy to jump on board. Anyway, so what is the mission of AITOS? The mission is to take IoT cellular modules and fuse them to the blockchain because it's all about data, okay? It's all about trusted data because that's the most important thing in the world today, which is worth more than gold, which is trust. It's worth more than all the gold in Fort Knox, okay? So the mission is to build trusted identity authentication and privacy preserving computational protection, basically protecting the data and protecting your identity while integrating it with the blockchain and the Internet of Things. And we do this to transform, and it's really about digital transformation. And a lot of things now, because of COVID-19, are about digital transformation. So let's move on. Let's see. Okay. So I've given presentations in the past when I was with a previous company about how you have no security, you have no privacy, and your identity is constantly being compromised. It is. It is from all kinds of elements, including some of the top companies in the world, because data is the new oil. It's a fact. That was coined by, I think it was The Economist a few years ago. Data is the new oil. But look at the situation. Companies like Google, companies like Facebook, they have been using your data for a decade. So what do? They take your data and they prostitute your data and sell it to other people. This is a fact. It's been going on. The Europeans got wind of this and they analyzed this and they said, well, wait a minute. No, excuse me. Hold on. Time out. They came up with something called GDPR, Global Data Protection Rights. And this GDPR came around 2 or 3 years ago, and it really started to take, people really started to take notice when people started to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. They recognized that know your customer and anti-money laundering really was important in these crypto wallets, in these databases, in these networks, and in the blockchain. It's really, really very important. So California, about a year ago, came out with a CCPA, this California Data Protection Law as well. And actually in China, they've come out with this Chinese new cybersecurity law. So basically, governments have taken control because private enterprise wants to use your data and distribute it and there's no security, privacy, and identity. Your self-sovereign identity is the most important thing for you. So don't treat it wisely. Don't treat it nonchalantly. It's very, very important. Okay, next slide. The BoAT. What is the BoAT? The BoAT stands for blockchain of AI things. We are pioneering this concept. We want this to be a de facto standard in the world. And the other term you could use is a blockchain module. What's a blockchain module? Well, the blockchain is a network. It's a thing. It's not actually a module. But we intend to take our SDK, our software development kit, and fuse it, embed it into all cellular IoT modules, irrelevant of the, almost irrelevant of the cellular connectivity. 4G LTE, 5G, narrowband IoT, and also Cat-M. We don't care. We take our SDK as a middleware and we embed it into the cellular IoT module of at least 9 Chinese cellular IoT module vendors, and we're working on the other 4 or 5. It's a very fragmented market right now for cellular IoT module vendors. We want to take this technology, make it a global standard. We think we're on the way. There are basically 3, I call them disruptive technologies, but there are 3 technologies now that are prominent when you talk about data privacy and security. And that is the blockchain, because the blockchain really does allow you to protect the data. And cellular IoT modules actually traditionally have had a problem with that. Why have they had a problem with the data? First of all, the cellular IoT module is not owned by the operator. However, the operator provides the cellular connectivity to the IoT module by giving it either a removable SIM card, an eSIM, or a newer technology called iSIM. We can get into that later on if you have a question about that, Larry. Basically, the cellular IoT module, it essentially collects sensor data, but then it has to use cellular connectivity in order to get the data that it's collected from the sensors into the cloud. Now, IoT modules, the blockchain, and AI. Well, you notice I mentioned AI. AI is important because it refines the data. It makes sure that the data that's being sent into the cloud is the correct data that's needed from the sensor or from the IoT device or even from the gateway, okay? All of these are what we call things that sit on the edge, okay? They sit on the edge of your periphery when you're accessing the cloud. And basically, the cellular IoT modules, one goal in life is to collect the data, but if you add AI to it, then now it refines the data before it uses wireless connectivity to send it off into the cloud. Let me move on. Now, what is a blockchain module? It's simply taking our SDK, software development kit, and embedding it into the cellular IoT module. What does a normal cellular IoT module do? What does a traditional module do? It provides you your reliable connectivity from the device to the cloud. It's an open CPU. It has GPS location services, and it also has AI capabilities, which means that if you're an AI algorithm developer, you can sell your AI algorithm to some of these cellular module vendors. In fact, most of them now are incorporating an AI algorithm. Many devices will have AI if they already all don't have it already. Let me move forward. So how can blockchain capabilities be employed to counter a fragmented IoT device, fragmented IoT devices? Well, IoT devices now are very fragmented. In fact, there's really only about 10, I guess there's really only about 14 or 15 globally, 14 or 15 cellular IoT module vendors. 9 of them are in China. There's about 4 or 5 that have significance globally. And we want to work with every single one of them. We're working with all of the ones in China. But it's a fragmented industry because, first of all, to make a cellular IoT module, you need a few things. You need a baseband chip with a modem. You need an eSIM or a SIM card, and traditionally sensors may be attached to that as well, depending on the application. So you need a bunch of different things to make a cellular IoT module. A cellular IoT module is not a mobile processor chip. It's very, very different. Actually, it combines various things like an MCU, the connectivity, and then the modem. It combines those things. That's what a cellular IoT module is. But the industry is very fragmented. So there are basically 300 million modules that were added to the world in 2019, 300 million. Of the top 10 manufacturers, we're working with 9 of them, including Fibercom and Quictel, major companies in the world. And the cellular module industry is not new. Listen, I was in this industry when it was analog technologies. In the 90s, I was in this industry. It was called SCADA and telemetry. Basically, you have a sensor. There's a change of state of the sensor, and it sends the change of state data to a central location where there may be a human or a machine monitoring it and sending out an alert. This technology is not new, but combining sensors together in a network or in a gateway and then sending them all back and then collecting all the data and using AI, that's relatively new. That's relatively new. Let me move on. So BoAT SDK, its value is to guard the IoT device wallet within the blockchain. Now, you notice I use the term wallet. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, in our ecosystem, we know that if we use the term wallet, to most cryptocurrency people, they think, well, it's a wallet. Actually, it's basically security because you're protecting the keys. And we use the term wallet because your machine actually needs to be storing private keys in a sort of wallet. And in this case, an IoT device is almost like a cell phone for a robot or a machine. That's what it is. It's not a human being. Smartphones do not have IoT device. Smartphones do not have IoT modules. They have a mobile apps processor chip. So it's a little bit different, all right? But our BoAT is providing data privacy protection and trusted identity authentication. Those two things we're providing when we fuse or when we embed our middleware SDK into the cellular IoT module. Let me go back previous. This is actually very important. So the BoAT uses signatures, in this case hashes, on the blockchain to provide the tamper-resistant security. So when you write to the blockchain, you write a hash to the blockchain. That's essentially the data. And that's what we do. We take the data and we write it to the blockchain. Our module allows to take the data and write it to the blockchain as a hash. It's actually the data written as a hash. This is actually very, very important. Let me move forward. So the BoAT SDK is positioned as an entry to AIoT, artificial intelligence of things. We think about Internet of Things. But since all of these Internet of Things devices will add AI, it is a fact. They're all adding AI to refine and massage the data to make it more accurate. All of these devices will have AI in it. That's why we use the term AIoT, artificial intelligence of things. And the goal is to guard the data at the source, at the edge. That's what we're doing. We're guarding the data. So actually, BoAT is an SDK. It's an SDK framework embedded into the module for trusted applications. It's that simple. And it really depends on two fundamental but very, very important technologies: hardware security and encryption, and cryptography. Those two things are critical to the blockchain. Those two things are critical to the whole hardware industry. And those two things are critical for embedded software into hardware. I've been in this industry taking embedded software, embedding it into hardware, with 3 of the top companies on the planet doing this. Okay, so this is a bit technical, BoAT's trusted framework architecture. As you can see here on the right side, I'm not sure if you can see my my arrow here, but I'm pointing to a module inside of an IoT device. Although the module and device look the same size, they're not. The IoT module is very, very small compared to the device. And as you can see here, our BoAT SDK acts as middleware to take the data that's taken from the secure enclave, and it's sent over to a blockchain server. It's also sent over to the IoT server through the cloud, but it's sent over to the blockchain server. And when it's in the server, we provide threshold signing service, which is a kind of key partitioning. I was involved in this kind of technology with my previous employer, dual roots of trust. And we also have a remote attestation service in the form of tokens. So when you're protecting anything, you need edge-to-edge security. We're providing that from the BoAT side with our SDK, our BoAT SDK in the cellular IoT module, but we're also providing it in partnership with one of our partners called PlateOn, which is another company invested by Wansheng Blockchain. PlateOn is a blockchain platform. They're doing a lot with enterprise consortium blockchain, public and private. They're doing public and private blockchains. What's interesting to note is the BoAT consists of a trusted framework. It's a trusted framework. At the IoT module side, provides remote attestation service, threshold signing services, and the PlateOn blockchain to provide privacy-preserving computer nodes. Basically, it's end-to-end security from the device at the edge all the way through to the cloud, all the way, because it's protected into the cloud, all the way to the blockchain server side. So I have a diagram here showing that you have a trusted ID going through the PlateOn blockchain server, and the result is privacy preserving. So it's about taking data, but why use the blockchain? Why use the blockchain? Because it's the way that the data can use consensus, to confirm that the data is real and not fake. It's the way you do it, because when you have the IoT device, you're transferring value only, okay? When you're transferring value, it's still just data. It's still just data. And most people say, I don't care about data. I just want the result. The result is how you monetize the data. That's why we have something called the sharing economy. We have the industrial internet economy. And we have basically a digital transformation going on with all this technology. The goal is to use the data to monetize things. I could explain a little bit further how they're actually doing this inside China. It's quite interesting, but let me move forward.
Hey, Karl, real quick, would you mind minimizing your camera? It might be covering your screen a little bit.
Minimize my camera.
Just like on the top right area where you can see your face.
Yes.
If you just hover over
my face?
Yeah, your face to the right. Yeah, and you just the left one. The smallest. One. The one, it's just like one block. So it's just.
Is that better?
No, I think it's the same. One more to the left, just so you hide the.
Oh yes, I see
that
it.
one.
I see it. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. Oh, you're good. All right, perfect.
Yep. Okay. So as you can see here at the device side, I can't actually see myself, but that's okay. I don't need to see myself. So at the device side, we isolate the private key, okay, So in cryptography, in the blockchain, you have a key pair, right? You have a public and private key. We isolate the private key, and the operations and the private keys go into the secure enclave. So the application, when you're accessing an application, it can only call the BoAT SDK APIs to execute an operation. It can never touch the private keys. This is very, very critical. You do not want any application tampering with the private keys. Our SDK does not allow any application to touch the private keys. And so in the secure enclave, we do key partitioning. We can actually partition the key. We're splitting the key, okay? Key partitioning. We also provide cryptography. So within the module, within the IoT device, we're providing key partitioning and cryptography. So it's extremely secure. And we can use many different types of, we can actually use many different types of secure enclaves. In the world today, some module vendors are using the TEE, which I brought to China 10 years ago, the trusted execution environment, or a standalone secure element, standalone, or a secure element in a removable SIM card, or an embedded SIM, an eSIM on the IoT module, or directly within the baseband of the chip. That's something called iSIM, Qualcomm, ARM, HiSilicon, they're all pushing this. Qualcomm is big pushing this now, which means that the connectivity, the eSIM connectivity, is nowhere except inside of the chip. So it's actually ultimately the most secure way, the cheapest way as well. That's coming. It's been standardized, but it's not quite reached. It's not quite scaled yet. So, but we can secure with our BoAT SDK. We can secure all of the data with inside any one of these scenarios that the IoT module vendor has built into the module. Let me go further. Let me go on. All right. So what does an IoT module do again? You have the IoT module sits in an IoT device. The cloud access is critical. That's what the IoT module's whole function in life is to do, is to take the sensor data, refined data, take it and bring it into the cloud to do something else. And our BoAT SDK is middleware sitting as a partner inside, as actually libraries as well, sitting inside as middleware inside the cellular IoT module, because the cellular IoT module also has its own RTOS, real-time operating system. There are different types depending on the module vendor. So think of the module in the device. Now that module is collecting sensor data, or the module itself may have sensors connected to in the module itself. It collecting all this data, it needs to be sent to the cloud. You need to make sure that the sensor data that's going into the cloud has not been tampered with by hackers. So you need to make sure that your data is always inside a secure enclave. Now it's being sent into the cloud. What happens when it reaches the cloud? Once it reaches the cloud, a few things happen. First of all, determine if it's a public or private cloud. But when our BoAT is involved, it's not only going into the cloud, it's actually also going into the blockchain node. And from when it's into the cloud, then you can have an IoT attestation server or an IoT application server to collect the data, to refine the data, to do something with the data. You can, for example, send an alert back to the device from an IoT server. You can send things back to the device. Turn off the gas, turn off the lights in my house. You can do many, many different things when you have control of the IoT server as soon as the IoT data is sent into the cloud. But we do something more. We add also that data into the blockchain to be used for many, many other various cool things. For example, in China, they have cows in Inner Mongolia being monitored. They know the health of those cows. Why do they need to know the health of the cows? Well, cows equal money. So you're monetizing the data because the farmer needs to determine that his cows are healthy to deliver either more meat when they go to the slaughterhouse or more milk when they go to the dairy, right? So this is very, very important. Who cares about that? The insurance company cares about that. The bank cares about that. They give you more loans and when you need more financing to build your business. So you see, the blockchain is really just about taking data, monetizing the data, making sure the data is not fake, and making sure that data is used in a productive way. And that's why they have enterprise consortium blockchains, where a bunch of these ecosystem stakeholders determine the value of the data. And that's how you're actually monetizing the data. Otherwise, that data is sitting everywhere. Who cares? Well, when you have a consortium of players, they care. So what are the benefits of a blockchain module? Simplifies the industry customer to do blockchain application pilot for the IoT device. So BoAT, Trusted Identity Authentication Framework, signs the data, okay? So if you look at this scenario in this slide again, what are we doing here? We're signing the data generated by the device from both the signature of the data's owner, the device user, and the signature of the data contributor, the device manufacturer, to protect the entry for the data value exchange at the last mile. So we're taking the data from the last mile, processing it through the cloud, back to an IoT application server, and then into the blockchain. We're taking it from the last mile, making sure that the data is trusted. Let me move on. This is our ecosystem. We have lots of trusted service applications. We have 9 different use cases going on right now in China with 9 different vendors. It's so cool. We're using the blockchain. A lot of it is, okay, well, we're using the blockchain, DLT, distributed ledger technology for smart contracts. A lot of that is Ethereum, right? Ethereum allows you to write smart contracts. Our SDK allows you to know your customer, key user interface, know your device, also provides key management service. So it's really, really cool. And that's a framework that we call BoAT. We're working with 9 different cellular IoT module vendors. And we're also working with the chipset guys, because remember, you need a baseband chip to make a cellular IoT module. And we're working with Qualcomm, MediaTek, and a few other vendors. Let me move on. So this is interesting. Okay, so I have all this IoT data, and I have it now in the blockchain. Now what? Now what do I do? Well, the strategy is to reach massive fragmented IoT device market through the blockchain to monetize. Who do I monetize to? Well, you can monetize to the government. For example, metering, that's power, smoke detectors, that could be buildings, could be a home, but it could also be commercial buildings. Road lights, that could be in a smart city application. And environmental, you have all kinds of environmental sensors in China, right? Specifically determining the quality of the air, and also fire hydrants, fires. They're all using sensors in buildings. So we're able to send that data immediately into the cloud and into the blockchain to guarantee that this data is real when it's being sent from the sensors. It's real. It's not a false alarm. This is actually what's going on. And this happens momentarily. This is not hours. This happens momentarily when you have a change of state and sensor sends the data into the cloud. Now, there's also for business. What do I mean by that? There's a huge smart lock business going on globally, a lot in China as well. You have an agricultural industry, grapes. And here in Washington State, we have lots of grapes. You need to monitor the health of the grapevine. It's incredibly critical. It can't be too cold, can't be too hot, needs to have enough water. You're always monitoring, especially here in the wine capital of Washington State, Woodinville. We need to monitor grapevines in Eastern Washington. And so they're using IoT right now to do that. They could be using the blockchain too. There's also building smart homes, industrial applications in factories, monitoring your supply chain, your warehousing goods. You could use video cameras connected to the blockchain to monitor if goods are being stolen out the back door. You can actually monitor that with a bunch of CCT cameras to monitor that and send that real-time video off to the cloud and then off to the blockchain. So cool. And again, also to customers. So you can use blockchain to monetize wearables. You can know if your grandmother or grandfather's heart rate is correct because you can have that data sent into the cloud, and an alert can be sent back to you immediately that if your dad is having an irregular heartbeat or something like that. You can have sports shoes with sensors sending the data back to the sports team, determining if the person's knees are weakening. It's really, really cool when you think about it. And also there's the medical use, pacemakers, okay, and all kinds of other things and medical procedures that people have had that they may need to be monitored with. And then there's just consumer electronic devices. But I caution that smartphones don't have IoT modules, but many other consumer electronic devices will have IoT modules. Let me move forward. So this is a little bit about the company. In December 2019, we created the first blockchain module alliance in Nanjing, China. And that was a combination of 9 different cellular IoT module vendors. And we also basically formed that cellular IoT module alliance with China Unicom and with the Wansheng blockchain organization. So it's 9 different vendors. They are taking our BoAT SDK right now and incorporating our BoAT SDK into their latest 4G and 5G cellular modules to utilize in the market for cool new blockchain use cases. Also, China Unicom and Wansheng blockchain created an IoT and blockchain innovation center. So this is in Nanjing also. They created a blockchain innovation center in Nanjing so that they can create and implement all these cool use cases for this integration of blockchain and IoT. That was done in June of 2019. As you can see from the picture here, you have the China Unicom, you have my CEO, you have Wansheng blockchain CEO, and you have a collaboration going on here. I was actually there prior to joining AI Toss. I was actually there for a conference where I also spoke. So I was actually there at this event. It's very, very cool. Let's move on. So here's another cool use case. So you have self-driving vehicles and something called the sharing economy. First of all, in China, autonomous vehicles are starting to be used. Some people would say it's a little scary. Some people would say it's very, very interesting. But one day, I want you to think about this. One day, you will be basically pulling out your cell phone and calling a machine to send a driverless vehicle to pick you up. And you might say, Karl, you are out of your mind. People have said that about me for 20 years as I bring all these cutting edge, cool technologies into the market. I've been doing this for a long time. You will be doing that. You will be taking your cell phone and calling an online service, and the result will be an autonomous self-driving car will pick you up. You'll get in the back seat. You'll insert your credit card, or you'll pay for it up front, depending on the service that you want, and then you'll be sent to your destination. That's what we call the sharing economy. It's going to happen with self-driving vehicles. We are playing a role in that. We believe that every single major car company wants to play a role in the sharing economy. So they will allow the BoAT SDK to combine IoT and the blockchain in their vehicles so that they can turn their cars into autonomous vehicles for the sharing economy. Why do we think that? Look at the situation here in Seattle. What is the car? What is the most important car for taxi services, for Uber, for Lyft? It's the Toyota Prius, is it not? Most Toyota Priuses have become part of the sharing economy. They're not self-driving yet, but they're part of the sharing economy. When you buy a Toyota Prius, people are using them for taxis, for Uber, for Lyft. It's a fact. So we believe the next extension is self-driving autonomous vehicles. We are playing a role in that now. Let me move forward. So in 2020, our business plan, I was brought on board to be the Global Business Development Director to bring our BoAT SDK technology to the globe. My job is to bring mobile network operators, cloud service providers, blockchain systems integrators, IoT module vendors on board to use our technology. That's my goal. We have already started with this cellular IoT Alliance, Module IoT Alliance. We have 9 different vertical use cases, 9 different companies, and more growing right now, mostly in China, but we have business going on globally as well. Platon, which is on the server side, we've built up that relationship with Platon as well, and we'll probably be launching something called 3C Odyssey Plan down the road. So these is part of our road mapping. Something interesting, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, just a few more slides. We formed an alliance with Lenovo Connect. Now, Lenovo Connect is part of the Lenovo group. You know, they make tablets, they make PCs, they make even smartphones, but their tablet business and their notebook business is famous. Lenovo bought the IBM business about 10, 15 years ago. They have Lenovo Connect, which is a cellular IoT connectivity. It's an MVNO is what it is for IoT, and Lenovo Connect is what it's called. They're mostly in Asia and in Europe, and we've partnered with them to integrate blockchain and IoT. So we've partnered with them. We are looking for mobile network operators to partner with right now. And so Lenovo Connect is just one of the activities we have formed this year. I'll wrap this up by stating some really cool points, which is blockchain plus IoT. It's all about trusting the data. It's all about integration of 2 cutting-edge, leading-edge technologies to combine to trust data. Data collection relies on IoT modules and technology. Data is collected, selected, integrated, sliced, diced, whatever you want to call it, integrated, and a massive amount is analyzed by artificial intelligence technology to make it big data, okay? And data is only valuable when it is exchanged through the blockchain via a distributed ledger. Otherwise, the data has value only to a certain group of people. But when you can take the data, secure the data, and monetize the data using cryptography and certificates, that's when the data has the most value. So anybody who says to you, "Oh, the blockchain is not important. The blockchain is a lot of hype." No, that's not true. You simply don't know how to monetize the data coming from devices going into the cloud and then to the blockchain. It's all about monetization of trusted, secure data. So data is like oil, but that data needs to be protected in the open source world. The world is open, the data is open, it needs protection. Blockchain helps to give the protection, our BoAT SDK helps to give the protection. I want to summarize this by saying that there are basically 4 steps when you want protected data. You collect the trusted data from the IoT device, right? You use our BoAT SDK to sign the data as a hash key into the blockchain. You use our BoAT to send the signing resultant hash into the blockchain. And then step 4, there are 4 steps here, is when a third party or a consortium, especially an enterprise consortium, wants to determine the hash key result, they compare the original data, the previous data, the original data with the resulting data, and they compare and match them. If they match, that's real data, trusted data. If they don't match, and then of course that becomes immutable when it's trusted and there's consensus and it's sent into the blockchain. If it's fake, the data doesn't match and you know it's not real. So we're actually proving that data is real with our BoAT SDK. So that is the end of my presentation. I know that was fairly long, and I hope people understand. If you want to reach me, I have a LinkedIn website. Larry, do you have any questions?
I think you covered just about everything. I think you mentioned the difference between iSIMs and eSIMs that you wanted to bring up real quick.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I was one of the first people in the world to push the concept of eSIM with a small startup in 2016. And I was pushing that into China. And of course, I was also trying to evangelize that to companies like T-Mobile, AT&T, and all these in the West. So I had a dual role, China and North America. And I realized that this is a really cool technology, but it kind of cannibalizes. So what do I mean by that? Well, with an eSIM, which is surface mounted or removable, because it comes in two different form factors, right? With an eSIM, I only need one email address and one cell phone number, and I can, as a sort of little YPAN, I can connect my smartphone, smartwatch, tablet to one phone number, one email address, and I don't need to pay, and I can have 4G LTE connectivity, and I don't need to pay 3 separate data plans. So you can see how various operators would say, well, you're cannibalizing our separate subscriber markets. We would want to generate data plans for the watch, for the notebook, a 4G LTE notebook, and the smartphone. Also, 4G notebook PCs will eventually, in my mind, some of them have it now, have 4G connectivity, not just a tablet, but an actual notebook PC. In my mind, the eventualization is that eSIM will be embedded into notebooks, because you're going to need 4G LTE or 5G in every single one of your devices. There's no reason why it can't. Anyway, back to the point here that this technology has been suppressed for a while. Companies like Apple and Samsung and Microsoft really want this technology to proliferate. And so the great thing is the cellular IoT modules are now starting to combine the technology either as a removable SIM card, eSIM as a removable SIM card, or eSIM modules surface mounted, embedded into the IoT module, or directly into the baseband, which is what we call iSIM. It's simply a secure enclave somewhere else in the baseband chip. So no matter what, you're getting your 4G connectivity. The most expensive is probably the removable SIM card slot. A cheaper version is having it surface mounted right into the hardware of the IoT device. But ultimately, the cheapest is having it as embedded as in a secure enclave. It's all going into the baseband chip. So those technologies are now all three kind of proliferating at the same time. And everybody's using a combination of these, because cellular IoT module vendors normally didn't want to stock eSIMs because they don't own them and the price fluctuates. So that's kind of what's going on in the secure enclave business for cellular IoT modules. Does that explain it clearly enough?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Again, my name is Karl Weaver. I greatly appreciate the University of Washington Blockchain Society for inviting me today to come and discuss really important integration of blockchain plus IoT. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.